We got a lot to get into here on this Wednesday edition of Locked On Vols. It is Ward Wednesday. We'll chat with Josh Ward. Trey Wilson, who does ESPN Plus broadcasts of Longwood, will stop by the show, and we're going to fill out my brackets. We're going to get to that here, all that and more here on a Wednesday Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Happy Wednesday, and welcome into Locked On Vols, your team every single day. That's the University of Tennessee Volunteers, and I'm your host, Eric Cain. You can find this podcast on Twitter at Locked On Vols. Find me on Twitter at _Cainer. Find this podcast 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, available anywhere you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Please subscribe there on YouTube. And we've been doing post-game shows as well throughout the tournament of basketball. So you have that to look forward to coming up later in the week and hopefully over the weekend and a couple more weekends to come. I do radio at 99.1 The Sports Animal. That's the flagship station for the University of Tennessee. If you're new to the show, I wanted to give a little background info on that. I also write for the rival site that's covering the University of Tennessee. That is volquest.com. So we're pretty busy today. We got two guests, Josh Ward in segment 2 and Trey Wilson in segment 3. So it's going to be a shorter segment 1. Got a couple of things to get into, but I wanted to kind of fill out my bracket a little bit and kind of discuss with you guys. We won't probably have time to go through the entire bracket, but time permitting, I wanted to start up here with the South region because that's Tennessee's region. Keep in mind, this is I filled this bracket out 2 minutes before coming on here and recording this podcast, so not in love with it, but is anybody ever in love with their bracket? I mean, really, like, is anyone ever in love with their bracket? I don't have time to sit here and, you guys know how I do all that research before Tennessee plays its next opponent, like we'll do, on tomorrow's show. I don't have time to do that for every single team, right? So a lot of it's gut feeling, a lot of it's going off what I know about the team already, a lot of it's going off of what I've watched from the team. But anyway, it's bracket season, and another plug in there to check out RunYourPool.com as well. So let's go ahead and get down into it. We'll start with the South region, and maybe we'll move on from there. At the top, Arizona Wright State. That's the 1 versus 16, or Baylor, Bryant, whoever they play. I'm doing this before the playing games on Tuesday as well. So that is going to be Arizona. You've got Seton Hall, the 8 seed, going up against TCU, the 9 seed. Or maybe that's vice versa. I can't read my handwriting or can't read the font on this bracket. We'll get TCU going there. Houston, UAB, Houston. Illinois, Chattanooga, Illinois. Colorado State or Michigan, Tennessee's opponent. I believe it will be Colorado State. Tennessee, Longwood, Tennessee. Loyola, Chicago, Ohio State. I'll get the 10 over the 7. Give me Loyola, Chicago. Maybe that's a sexy pick considering what they've done in years past, but give me Loyola. And, so that is the South. Oh, Villanova and Delaware. Give me Villanova. So going on to the Saturday games, or the Saturday/Sunday games, we'll start at the top again. Arizona, the 1 seed. TCU, the 8 seed. TCU's got some pretty big wins so far this year, but it's nothing like what they're going to see with Arizona, so I'll take Arizona in that one. Houston, Illinois. I like Houston. I think Houston's one of the most talented teams in the country, but they're playing without 2 of their best players, and that's come back to get them a couple times this year. I mean, truly remarkable the season they've had despite all the injuries they've had. I like Houston. I think at full strength, Houston has a chance to cut down the nets, maybe a Final Four contender, but not this year. Give me Illinois. Colorado State and Tennessee. I think Tennessee matches up better against Colorado State than it would against Michigan, personally. I think Tennessee's just got too many bullets in the chamber, too many guys playing in the game. Tennessee's, you have guys capable of picking up the offense when the other guys are down. We know that. We watch Tennessee. I like Tennessee over Colorado State, and I like Tennessee advancing on to the Sweet 16. Loyola, Chicago over Villanova. Well, it's going to be Villanova. So here we are in the Sweet 16 here in the South region. We've got Arizona, the 1 seed, going up against Illinois, the 4 seed. Tennessee, the 3 seed, going up against Villanova, the 1 seed. It'll be a rematch between Tennessee. Well, we'll get to that in a moment. Arizona, Illinois. Illinois can certainly win this basketball game, but I do believe it will be Arizona. I just think it's a long, lengthy team. So give me Zona to move on to the Elite 8. Tennessee has only been to 1 Elite 8 ever in program history. Can this year be the second time it advances on to the Elite 8? Why not, right? Standing in the way will be Villanova, a team that really just pummeled Tennessee. Colin Gillespie, one of the best players in the country. Kennedy Chandler did not have a good game. I think both of these teams are very different from the last time they met. I think Tennessee it's been a good defensive team all year long, wasn't on that day, but Tennessee has grown so much on the offensive end. Tennessee's gotten consistent play all year long from first team All SEC player in Santiago Vescovi. Okay. And Kennedy Chandler has obviously the tournament MVP and what everything he's accomplished this year, able to go off for 25 plus any given moment, right? Josiah Jordan-James, the way he is playing right now, Josiah Jordan-James and Kennedy Chandler, I think were a combined 2 of 13 in that game against Villanova. That's not going to happen again. I like Tennessee too much, and maybe I'm too close to it. That's fair. I like Tennessee too much in this matchup against Villanova to think it's going to go the same way that it did back in November. So give me Tennessee over Villanova, advancing on to the Elite Eight for the second time in program history. Another rematch awaits there. Arizona and Tennessee. Can Tennessee go 2-0 in rematches here in this tournament in the South region? I don't know. Since Tennessee's never been to a Final Four, I'm not going to pick Tennessee to go to the Final Four this year. That's just not what I'm going to do. Again, you're welcome when Tennessee goes to the Final Four. I did not pick Tennessee to win the SEC tournament. You're welcome for Tennessee winning the SEC tournament. That's just kind of how I roll. Plus, tournament basketball, it's so hard to predict and all that. I mean, I say that all the time. Tennessee's talented enough to win every single game in this tournament. But will it? I don't know. It's why you play the game. Arizona's a great team. Tennessee beat Arizona 77-72 here at Thompson Bowling Arena on December the 22nd. Tennessee is capable of beating Arizona again, but just like I said with Tennessee Villanova, I think Arizona's gotten better since that last matchup. So I will take Arizona to beat Tennessee and advance on to the Final Four. Really, that's more so an indictment on Tennessee never have been to a Final Four than that. But again, it's just kind of one of those things I kind of stay away from. So that's how I see the South region playing out. Maybe we'll get into the other sides and I'll finish off my bracket before the week is over. But I want to take this time to encourage you to put your pools in at RunYourPool.com. Enter Pure Madness. RunYourPool.com/LockedOn. Enter Pure Madness, and you can compete against us, the host, and plus you'll have a chance for a cash prize. So you can see my complete bracket there, plus everybody else from the network as well. So that's how I see the South region playing out. Tennessee gone to the Sweet 16. Not suffering a hiccup at all in this first weekend, taking down Villanova to advance to the Elite Eight and then bowing out there. What say you? Of course, we'll get a better look at it this weekend when Tennessee takes on Longwood and then potentially Colorado State and or Michigan if it's able to get through the first matchup, which it should. We got Josh Moore coming up next here on Locked On Vols. But first, I want to remind you about Stat Hero. Man, do I love March Madness. I love those brackets. But talking about brackets right here, filling them out. I can't remember the last time I went deep in a bracket challenge or even won any money. I'm hedging my bets this year with Stat Hero's NCAA Pick'ems contest. Stat Hero's single game Pick'ems pits the star players against one another, an amazing hybrid between fantasy and sports gambling. Take control back from those handicappers that always seem to have the advantage. All right, start focusing on the players that you know the best with a gameplay that doesn't rely on big spreads, long odds, or funky props. Stat Hero gives you the advantage, resulting in their gamers winning 4 times as often. Why? Well, because Stat Hero eliminates the mystery about who or what you are going up against. In addition to the pick'em games, they have also dozens of lineups that you can comb through to take on head-to-head. Simply, they post the sets of players for you to take on with the set of players that you choose. Stat Hero is the easiest and fastest way to be getting your sports action fix. So right now, go to stathero.com, okay, /LockedOn. Use that promo code for Locked On for a 100% deposit match. That is stathero.com /LockedOn. Use promo code Locked On for a 100% deposit match. Stathero.com /LockedOn, promo code Locked On. Terms and conditions do apply. And I want to tell you about Rock Auto. The ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain of auto parts to keep up with all the parts that you need. So why endure The often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning that comes while you wait for the person behind the counter to look up the parts for your order on their computer and their brands and their own warehouse. You can do it all from the palm of your hand. That's at rockauto.com. And you can save time and money while doing it. Why choose to spend up to 30 to 50, sometimes even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership when you can do it from rockauto.com. It's a family-owned business serving it to do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Rock Auto's prices are always so incredibly reliably low. They have everything you could possibly need, from brake parts to tail lamps, motor rolls, even new carpets. Go explore their easy-to-use website today and find the solution to your auto needs. So go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts available for your car and your truck. Right Locked On in the How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Visit rockauto.com. That time of the week again, it is Ward Wednesday here on Locked On Vols. Got Josh Ward over here. Josh, big time in sports right now.
It's a great time in sports, and a great time for Tennessee sports with the Vols winning an SEC tournament and a really good position. I know there's been the seeding debate, but the position I think Tennessee's in is really good. Nothing's guaranteed in this tournament, but Tennessee's playing really good basketball, and this time of year is just it's spectacular with the intensity, the win in advance, lose and go home aspect of sports. I think that's what gets fans most excited most often.
Yeah, we're going to have that seeding debate here in just a moment, but let's look back at the SEC tournament. I mean, you got Kennedy Chandler. Looks like he might leave the game right as the tournament starts, but he stays in, wins tournament MVP. You got great play, fantastic play from Josiah Jordan-James. First time since 1979. Hard to believe, but quite an accomplishment for the Tennessee basketball team.
Yeah, it was hard to believe it took that long, considering Tennessee has had so many good basketball teams. It's not like Tennessee basketball has been bad for 43 years. Quite the contrary. Tennessee has had a bunch of really good teams under different coaches along the way, but this team came together and played the right kind of basketball to win a tournament, which is what's creating the optimism going into the next tournament, because Tennessee was not touched in the SEC tournament. Tennessee went out there, was clearly better than Mississippi State, which we knew. Tennessee was clearly better over 40 minutes than Kentucky in that game on Saturday. And then same for Texas A&M, and maybe A&M was running out of gas, but Tennessee took advantage of that. So what a run it was to win the SEC tournament, and what a story it's been from where the conversation was in January. January's not that long ago, where there was concern about, is this team going to put it together? I think fans were really concerned about what the team was offensively, and was it just lost hope with a team with a bunch of talent? Then after that Texas game, everything started to click, and the players and the coaches and everything that they put into it really paid off.
All right, so I'm with you. The draw is good for Tennessee as a 3 seed, but it makes no sense. Why was Tennessee named a 3 seed, not a 2 seed?
I could answer probably most simply by saying laziness from the selection committee. None of what I'm going to say is a defense of the selection committee. It's actually an indictment of the selection committee. But I think they screw up everything every year in terms of the overall layout.
They're the worst.
Of the bracket. Doesn't mean every single seeding is wrong. I don't mean that. But in every region, including the one Tennessee's in, you can find multiple just huge shoulder shrug questions. I don't understand why Loyola Chicago in the same region as Tennessee is a 10. It should be much higher than that. It's a top 25 team in the country. Like the poll comes out with Tennessee as a 5. And actually, I don't pay much attention to polls, but if you look at the poll or you look at KenPom or you look at the net rankings, Tennessee is ranked higher than where the committee has it. Now, the committee has Tennessee number 10, so 5 to 10 is not a huge gap.
Yeah.
But it is wrong where they have Tennessee. Tennessee should have been a 2 seed in this NCAA tournament. But Loyola Chicago has no business being a 10. It should be much higher, maybe a 5 or 6. Think about that difference. Wisconsin is a 3. Wisconsin should be a 5 or a 6. Now, that also doesn't mean what the results are going to be. Loyola Chicago, as a 10, could lose in the first round to a 7-seed opponent in Ohio State. Tennessee, I think, has a really good draw. It might not win this weekend, though, both games. So the missed seeding doesn't necessarily tell us what's going to happen the rest of the way, but it's a reminder that it's just outdated the way that they do this. You have athletic directors and conference commissioners that are in charge of putting this together, and I think my first answer was laziness by the committee. I think they got to Friday, and everything's pretty much done. There may have been a little wiggle room, and obviously they have to wait to see, does a Texas A&M win its conference tournament? Does Virginia Tech win the conference tournament? Because they automatically get in. But really, you're just taking a team out and putting them in. I think they got to Friday, Saturday, and most of what they were going to do with the bracket is done. And I also don't think we should we should put too much of an emphasis on the Friday, Saturday, Sunday in a conference tournament when we even know some coaches don't value it. Some coaches are thinking, we might be better off losing on Saturday so that we don't have to play on Sunday. And that is maybe a reason that the committee looks at it the way that it does. So now I'm just ranting here, but like Greg Sankey needs to look at, should we be playing on Sunday? Should we move it up to Saturday so the coaches value it more, so maybe the committee values it more? The whole system, well, I love the tournament, and ultimately I don't think this matters that much, but the setup to get to the point that we are on Selection Sunday where everybody's griping about the seating, that can be cleaned up.
Yeah, you kind of led me right into my next question. Conference tournaments don't matter. They really don't, because if everything's locked up by Friday so they can go home for the weekend pretty much, you're waiting on Virginia Tech, who won the conference. You're waiting on Texas A&M to see if they finished off. It didn't, obviously. But Texas A&M got left out. Should not have been left out, in my opinion. Tennessee went ahead and beat Kentucky again. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all, right? I mean, that type of stuff makes no sense. Then you have Rick Barnes, who had some comments earlier this week that I thought were fantastic. Spoke with Mike Wilson about this on yesterday's show, about how essentially if you're already locked up, if you're a Power 5 team, don't even play in it, right? I mean, of course, that's never going to happen. It's never going to happen.
Sure.
But might as well not even play in it. And also how he would like the selection committee to have a press conference day that Monday and to answer questions and defend what they did, because it makes no sense. I thought some pretty powerful quotes there from Rick Barnes. Again, he's sticking up for his conference, sticking up for teams like Texas A&M, probably voicing a little frustration, of course, because, again, a 3-seed, 2-seed, who cares at the end of the day? But why play the games if they literally don't matter for teams like Tennessee? Because that is 100% what happened.
Well, the funny thing with Rick Barnes' comments, which I do enjoy in terms of maybe the teams that are locked in to the NCAA tournament shouldn't play in the conference tournament, that kind of devalues what Tennessee just accomplished.
Exactly.
Because they, if you're saying we would have been better, he didn't say we're better off, but if he's suggesting the idea that maybe you're better off not playing, well, that means that what you're playing for doesn't really matter, which then takes away from the championship that you're now celebrating. So part of it's emotion, I get it, but it's like it's layered what matters most. What matters next is what matters most to these teams. What do you do in the NCAA tournament? Tennessee cut down the nets on Sunday, which was great, and they won the SEC tournament. But if Tennessee loses to Colorado State or Michigan on Saturday, or heck, if they go to the Sweet 16 and lose in that round, then they're not going to say, we won the conference tournament. They're going to be disappointed that they couldn't keep going in March. And that applies to Virginia Tech from the ACC tournament or to Iowa. Iowa's a 5 seed. They're not concerned anymore about winning the Big Ten tournament. They love doing it, but it's more about what you do next. So it is kind of a reminder of what matters the most. And I do think there needs to be – need to step back and say, okay, well, how much should these conference tournaments matter? Because this isn't new that they don't matter in terms of seeding. I just think in this year's case, Tennessee fans kind of found out that's the deal because they won on Sunday for the first time in 43 years. So fans have never experienced the success on Sunday that then doesn't help them in the tournament selection process. But fans went into Thursday, Friday, Saturday thinking, okay, if we do this and then we do this, then it's going to mean this for us in the NCAA tournament. And right or wrong, that was just never going to be the case. And that's why I think the process is flawed. So, again, nothing I'm saying here is a defense of the selection committee. Aside from if they know coaches don't care that much about the conference tournament, then it is a question, well, how much should the committee care about it too? That's another conversation, but it's a flawed process in the end. There's no way to make it perfect probably for a 68-team field when you're really actually analyzing 75 to 80 teams. Yeah. So keep that in mind. But my solution would be I would have Ken Pomeroy, and I'd have the analytics people, and I'd have a couple of handicappers. Let them set the field because I think they do a much better job. You have South Dakota State as like a 2-point underdog as a 13 seed versus Providence as a 4 seed.
Yeah.
There's an example of them not getting it right.
I want to know who has blackmail on you because you are coming out here in high defense of the selection committee here on a Wednesday.
yeah, that's what this is.
That's what I'm taking it as. Real quick, let's go about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I had a couple of days to digest it. It's hard to predict, but kind of when you see Tennessee's draw, the path, how do you see Tennessee competing in this tournament?
I think Tennessee has a really good chance to go on a deep run. Again, nothing's guaranteed. Like Tennessee could lose on Saturday, and it wouldn't be stunning if that happens. But I would be surprised because of how well Tennessee's playing right now, the defense, the buy-in from the players. They'll probably use this 3 seed, even though I like the draw, as some kind of slight for extra motivation. Don't need it, but take it. So I think Tennessee gets to at least the Elite Eight. If Tennessee's in the Sweet 16, I'll have them pass Villanova in a rematch. Interesting matchup there to play again. But Arizona's tricky. I think Arizona's terrific. Kirk Risa being out is a really important injury. The belief is that he'll be back for the Elite Eight. If that's the case and he's effective, I think Arizona wins in a rematch against Tennessee, so the Cats to the Final Four. But, hey, if you're in the Sweet 16, if you're in the Elite Eight, take your shot at getting to the Final Four for the first time. I think Tennessee's going to have a shot.
Stones, what we call it there for Josh Ward, because Tennessee, of course, has been to one Elite Eight ever in the history of the program, and J-Dub is calling it here this year, so we'll have to see how it plays out. That confidence likely comes from Built Bars, and that's something that Josh and I both really, really enjoy. Swimsuit season is right around the corner. We're heading through the month of March. A lot of you guys, a lot of your kids potentially on spring break right now. Maybe you're listening to this via Florida. Maybe your vacation destination. Something that can give you that afternoon pick-me-up if you're looking to lose or maintain weight throughout the swimsuit season, that is the Built Bar. About 130 calories on average compared to a candy bar that's about 240 calories. But it's got 17 grams of protein, loaded with protein that is good for you. And there's so many selections at Built.com. You got coconut almonds, you got cherry, you got cookies and cream. If they believe it'll taste good, they're going to generate it up, and you can find it all at Built.com. Go to Built.com right now. Type in Lock15. You're going to get 15% off your next order. Lock15 for 15% off your next order. That is at Built.com.
Welcome back in here to Locked On Vols as we continue on towards the NCAA tournament. Tennessee will take on Longwood to kick things off. And I want to bring on a Longwood insider. His name is Trey Wilson. Trey does a lot of ESPN Plus broadcasts for the men's basketball team for Longwood. He's also the AA affiliate of the San Francisco Giants, play-by-play broadcaster for the Richmond Squirrels. Trey, first and foremost, thank you so much for joining us here on the show. Before we get into Tennessee and Longwood, how excited are you for baseball to be back?
Yeah, man, I'm pretty excited. I don't know, Longwood Insider is a little bit of a stretch, by the way. But, yeah, it's good to see you, man. It's been a little while, and I'm pumped for baseball season. This is coming next few weeks, and I'm really excited to get that rolling.
Yeah, the second longest stoppage in baseball history, and so I'm glad it's over with. Glad that we got baseball back, but right now it's all basketball, obviously. And you caught a ton of their broadcasts, their television broadcasts this year, and it seemed to won the Big South Conference. Really, just kind of breezed through that conference tournament, taking down North Carolina A&T State, South Carolina Upstate, and Winthrop. Perfect 3-0 record to win that Big South Conference tournament, get the automatic bid. What's to know about Longwood, and what does Tennessee need to look out for come Thursday?
Yeah, well, one thing with this team is I definitely wouldn't say they breezed through, although they did handle Winthrop pretty handily in the final, the conference final. But this is a team that's played a ton of close games in conference play. They only lost one conference game this year, and they beat Winthrop, which is the team that's annually the class of the league. They're always a competitive program. They beat them in the regular season, beat them in the conference final. Winthrop has DJ Burns, who was at Tennessee for a little while. A lot of y'all remember him, and that guy could play. He's a load to try and keep in check. But this is a team that's got some experience. They got some really talented guards. They got 3 different guys that could put up 30 on you on a given night, but usually it's going to be more of a spread attack. They got some guys who'd be a little undersized probably in the front court at the Power 5 level, but they do a really good job playing above their actual size. And Zach Watson, Leslie carry them. Their guards are going to rebound a ton. They're going to swarm the basketball. They're going to play at a pretty quick pace most of the time. It's a fun team to watch, and I think this could be a pretty good matchup.
You mentioned they've got 3 guys that can go for 30 at any point in time: Isaiah Wilkins, Deshaun Wade, Justin Hill. What makes those guys unique? I know that Wilkins and Wade do a great job of shooting the 3 ball, take a lot of 3-point shots, and that's been a big reason for the success for Longwood so far this season.
Yeah, look, Isaiah Wilkins is a guy. He's been to the Sweet 16 when he was at Virginia Tech. He's experienced this tournament before. Can bring some of that type of leadership into that locker room. And yeah, Wade can shoot. He can drive. He can do a lot. I mean, Wilkins is also, he was the Big South's, I think, number 2 rebounder. He's a 6'4" guard. So he's gonna. Those guards are gonna get to the basketball on the rebounding side. This is a team that's also, with a heavy guard presence in rebounding, one of the top offensive rebounding teams in the nation. But then Justin Hill, I think, is just such a special talent. He can do things driving through the lane. I watch him. He gets so low. He stays so low, and I'll see him drive through traffic sometimes and get the ball up off the glass and go in. I can't believe he gets some of the shots to go that he does. But they don't need all those guys to go off every night. If Justin Hill scores 8 points and, usually Wilkins is going to be there to score, 25 and pick up some of that slack.
I'm looking at kind of the splits here for Longwood this season. Much like Tennessee, very good at home. Tennessee was undefeated at Thompson-Boling Arena this year. Longwood 16-1 at home, 7-5 on the road. What made this team so good playing at home this season?
Well, they were good everywhere they played, and then they were very good in conference play, which is where when you're at a low major team, that's what most of your home games are, or they're against non-Division I opponents. But on the road, they played a couple Power 5 teams early, opened up the season against Iowa, looked pretty good throughout a lot of that game, even the final score might not look at it. Had a really good shot to beat Georgetown on the road up in D.C. I know Georgetown didn't turn out to be great this year, but they held with, again, some Power 5 competition there. So once they got into conference play and got where, again, you're getting the bulk of your home games, it's a program that's not had a ton of success in the past at the Division I level since they moved up to Division I about 15 years ago. And they played some tight games at home, but then you get a little further in and people started to catch the fever a little bit about what was going on with this program, and every game was sold out or close to it. And it was a loud home court advantage. It was a really fun atmosphere to be in a couple times a week. They got a ton of support, and I think that helped to push them over the edge in some tight games in conference play.
Now, if my math's correct, and I'm never going to say it is because, well, I do radio, looks like Longwood's won 18 of its last 19 games. It had a 10-game winning streak, had a loss to North Carolina A&T back on February the 12th, and then has since run the table. It's gone 3-0 in the conference tournament, of course, and then won 5 before that. How much confidence is this team playing with right now? And I truly do believe that confidence could be a factor. It doesn't matter against whoever you're playing against, Tennessee or Duke or North Carolina, whoever it may be.
Yeah, I certainly think this is a team, and again, I have no bias in this conversation, but I think this is a team that has the type of talent and experience and poise that can really go toe-to-toe with a Power 5 team on any given one night. You run it 10 times, I think they could take 1 or 2. But there's even that game against North Carolina A&T, that was the only conference loss they had all season. They're on the road in a place the teams usually don't win, and they were leading that game late. It just kind of fell away late. But this is a team that has a lot of experience and poise and confidence, like you said, because they played a ton of close games. They didn't blow very many teams out this year, especially in conference play. They have closed out games pretty phenomenally, aside from that A&T game, where if it's tight late, they're going to get to the line. They're probably going to make their free throws, and they're not going to give up second chances on the other side. If they're trailing and they miss, they got a good chance to grab an offensive board.
All right, it's called March Madness for a reason. We've seen we had our first 16-1 upset a couple years ago. We've seen 15s over 2s. We've seen 14 over 3s, all the way down. It can get crazy. For this to get crazy, for Longwood to knock off Tennessee, I think it's at 15, maybe 16 points underdog right now. What would have to happen for Longwood to do that, accomplish that feat?
I would say that I don't think that watching this team and knowing the type of leadership they have with Griff Aldridge, I don't think the moment's going to get to them a ton, or they're going to be overly intimidated by the lights or by the resume of the competition. I think it's just going to be a matter of if they're able to execute the game plan that they go in with, they're probably going to be in a relatively close game, and then it just comes down to executing late, hitting shots. And if they get hot outside, we saw at the conference tournament, this is a team that can knock down 8 or 9 threes and a half if they really get hot. I might be exaggerating that just a little bit, but I mean, we see it in this tournament all the time. If you get an underdog, lower seeded team that starts knocking down some 3-pointers quickly, they get the crowd behind them. They're going to be in Indianapolis, so it might not be the biggest Tennessee crowd out there. All those neutral fans, I've been to a lot of NCAA tournament games, all those neutral fans start going with the underdog. So if they get out to an early lead, or if they're in it close late, that house is going to be in Longwood's favor most likely. So that could help them out to try to push them over the edge in this thing too.
His name is Trey Wilson. He does the ESPN Plus broadcast for the majority of Longwood's basketball games, also the broadcaster, director of communication of the AA affiliate of the San Francisco Giants. That is the Richmond Flying Squirrels. Trey, thanks so much for your time, man. Where can we find more of your work? Obviously a lot of baseball coming up here soon.
Yeah, I'm active on Twitter. A lot of tweets about food and
music.
And music. Yeah, music. And I find my way through East Tennessee every now and then too. So I get out that way. I'm always looking for some good food suggestions. So Knoxville, East Tennessee, send them to me next time I'm out there. I'll find them.
Hey, Trey, you got my number, man. You give me a shout whenever you're in town, all right?
Yeah, see you, Eric.
All right, Trey, appreciate it, man. That is Trey Wilson. Really, really good dude. Really, really good broadcaster, and appreciate his time giving us a little bit of some insights on the Longwood men's basketball program. All right, that is going to do it here for this edition of Locked On Vols. Thanks so much for making Locked On Vols your first listen each and every day. Now for your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Draft with Ryan Tracy and Eric Crocker, former NFL cornerback Eric Crocker. They bring insight, analytics, all that and more from college prospects and NFL front offices. Bring that to life every single day. That's the Locked On NFL Draft. We're open and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Vols, available anywhere you get your podcast, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Of course, we'll do post-game podcast after Thursday's game and Saturday's game, hopefully for the University of Tennessee. And subscribe on YouTube. Continue to support the show there. Guys, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Have a great Wednesday. And we will be back with a full preview for Thursday's game against Longwood here on Locked On Vols.